We're going to talk now about emotions and human emotions. And this is a big part of our life, and we rarely even look at it. So, one of the things, as I'm self observing, I'm noticing my thoughts. I'm noticing what the physical body is doing, as I walk down the street, walk along the sidewalk, as I'm reaching for something. Maybe it's late afternoon, early evening, and I'm in the kitchen. I'm preparing dinner, so I'll do all I can to consciously. There goes the ice maker. Maybe you heard it. Speaking of kitchen, to I'll do all I can to consciously reach for the handle of a knife. I have like a favorite knife, and I use that knife to prepare vegetable, cut things, whatever, cut meat, cut cheese, cut potato, right? Cut carrots, tomatoes, preparing dinner. Sometimes it's fun and sometimes it's relaxing, and other times it's like, I don't want to make dinner again. But anyway, see, we can use even that. I can go against myself. It's my false self that's telling me, well, you're tired and just order a pizza, whatever. That's the false self. You want to know how the false self comes into play? That's it. You'll become very good, very adroit, very adept at identifying your false self once you start seeing it in action. Go against yourself, prepare dinner, right? Even if it's nice and simple little dinner, go against yourself and prepare the dinner. That's good work right there. You're going against the false self, which diminishes the power of the false self. And as the false self gets diminished, your true self comes to the fore. You start living from your true authentic self. And that's what you want to have happen. That's why we do this work. So I've compiled some notes for this section. I need it. I need the notes to look at the way that emotions, the way they're leveled, the way they come into play. And I look at these notes and I realize this may have to be a two-parter. We'll have to see. We'll see how far we get. But I'm letting you know in advance. This may be part one of you are your emotional state, and part two may be done tomorrow or next. There are different levels of not only how we feel, but how we experience life. Because I look at life not only through my eyes, but also my attitudes and my emotions. My emotions color my perception. The goal is to see clearly with awareness, with alertness. Remember, we talked about how in the present, how instant our pets are, cats and dogs and all animals they're alive in the moment. They exist in the moment. Well, we want to be that way also, so that we don't suffer. And the fact that we do suffer, the suffering itself is a message from nature saying something's wrong. You're not living in the moment. If you're in pain, the pain itself is a message. The pain is like getting a text, and the text is from nature's saying, hey, you're doing something wrong. You're not supposed to be in pain. I didn't create you to be in pain. So we experience life through our emotions also. Not only emotions color our perception, how we perceive things. So there are different levels of how we can feel and experience life, and most of us move through these levels without, we're not aware. One emotional blend into the next, you know, I'll be excited. I feels like that might be happiness, but it's not. It's not happiness. It's excitement. I'm excited about something. I'm thrilled about something. You ever been thrilled? We get thrilled all the time. You go to the mailbox and you're not expecting a letter, and hey, I just got a letter from someone. I get a letter every 6 months or so from someone I knew in college, and we write back and forth. But every time I receive a letter from that person, it's pleasant. I like it. I'm like, wow, she still remembers. Takes the time to sit down and handwrite a letter to someone. So that's kind of neat. Anyway, we get thrilled all the time, and we experience emotions all the time, but we're not alert and aware of what type of emotions those are. So we're gonna get into the different types of emotions and how the so-called the lower emotions cause us pain, and how the neutral and higher emotions cause us pleasure. And we have a whole lot of one type of emotion, the painful ones, and not a whole lot. We don't experience a whole lot of the higher, more pleasing, pleasant emotions. So we're learning to become aware of the emotions as they go through us. This is part of self-observation. I'm watching my thoughts, I'm watching my breathing, I'm also watching the emotions as they come up. What was that just went through me as my my sister was visiting, or my brother was visiting, or somebody called me on the phone and they were telling me all about their brand new car that they bought, and this emotion went through me. Or they dropped by to show me their new car, and this emotion went through me, and like then they left. And what is that? Well, that's jealousy. That's the emotion of jealousy. I thought I was beyond the emotion of jealousy. I hadn't felt jealous since high school or whatever, right? So you actually get really good at when clarity begins to come, when you're working on yourself and you're like, oh yeah, I actually have a choice to be aware in this moment. I have a choice to work on myself. You can actually start seeing your emotions too, possibly, for the first time in a long time. When I first discovered this work, when I first discovered truth and higher facts, I remember feeling for the longest time, talking about emotions, I remember feeling frozen. I was frozen. I didn't know what my emotions were. I knew what anger was, and I could probably pick resentment out of the lineup of usual suspects, but I couldn't. I was not good at all at like, okay, this is shame, and that's apathy, and that's regret, and that's, I couldn't just nail them like that, because I was frozen. I had just been raised, and then later as a young adult lived in, it just took me decades to thaw out. I'm not going to regale you with, my story, but it just, in this lifetime, for whatever reasons, it took me decades to thaw out. I was like a rigid, solid block of ice, and I did not thaw out for the longest time. I didn't thaw out until I was probably in my early 50s. That long. That's how long it took. So hopefully you are somewhat free in your living situation, and hopefully, so anyway, let's look at these emotions. The absolute, it's not even an emotion, but if you were physically dead, like a cadaver laying on a table or in a bed or whatever, just a dead person, that person has ceased to be, okay, they have an emotional level of zero. Okay, they have zero emotion at all. And let me pull the camera back just a little bit and say this. Iced tea. Thank you, God, for creating iced tea. Oh, man. If you're dead, if you're physically dead, your emotional level is zero. So, like I said, pull the camera back. Everything in the universe is vibrating. Everything vibrates at a certain level. Everything is vibrating. You vibrate, your wife vibrates, your husband vibrates, your kids vibrate, your pets vibrate, your car vibrates. The desk I'm sitting at, this has a vibrational level. This vibrates at some level. Um, this whatever, this rock, I don't know if you can see that. There it is. There's the rock. This little smooth rock that I use as a paperweight. It's kind of neat. This would be a good skipper across a lake or a river or a pool, whatever, that has a vibrational level. This shirt has a vibrational level. Everything vibrates. Everything, because it's been created, and it's created from atoms, molecules, and all that. And you know the story on all that. Those things are vibrating. Chemicals vibrate at different levels. That's what makes them different chemicals. So everything has a vibrational level, and so do human emotions. The lower human emotions, the low ones, vibrate at a low vibrational level. The higher emotions vibrate at a higher vibrational level, and therefore they feel pleasing. The lower emotions are, and we're going to get into them, I'm going to read you the list. The lower human emotions: shame, guilt, apathy, anger, fear, resentment, jealousy. Those are all low human emotions, and they all vibrate at different low, they're lower emotional levels. And because they're low, they cause us pain. And look at that. I mean, really, look at that. Nature did that so that we wouldn't want to be unhappy. Nature made anger painful so that we would stay away from it, like fire. Like fire is, I mean, fire cooks our food and keeps us warm and dries out our clothes, and fire has all kinds of amazing purposes, right? But you would never take your bare hand and stick it in the fire, because that would burn, that would hurt, and you would say, wow, that really hurts. So nature's saying, guess what also hurts? Anger, resentment, jealousy, all those things hurt. Scripture says, make no friends with an angry man. And an angry person is, a friendless person, a relationship-less person. Why? Because anyone who's around a human volcano, when that lava erupts, guess where the lava is going to go? The lava is going to go on you. Anger comes out of them first, and so they're suffering. An angry person is extremely, I saw the manager at the grocery store. He's the manager, and then through staff there, they one of them said, "Oh, he's also our union rep." And I thought, yeah, that makes sense, because someone as insecure as him, I mean, I saw him explode. He exploded like a human volcano. It was 6:06 a.m. on like a Monday or a Tuesday. I was having this condo remodeled. I was working on the remodel myself, and I had two men with me. And you do not, don't feed the bears, right? I broke the cardinal rule, and I liked these men. They were great. They came into my life at a time when I really needed some socialized companions, and they were great companions while we were here. I was living on this job site for 2.5 months as we remodeled this condo where I live. These guys were great. And so I made them sandwiches every day. I would stop around 11:30 noon, and I'd make sandwich, I'd clean up, wash up, and I'd make sandwiches for the three of us. Drinks, the whole bit. I fed these guys. I watered them. I wanted. I knew that our time together was finite, and I wanted them to remember. So I went to the store at 6 a.m. when it opened, and I was out of, sliced roast beef and cheese and bread and tomato. I needed supplies for that day's lunch and for the week. And so I loaded up the cart. I'm at the self checkout. I'm checking out. I forgot tomatoes, and I think of course, it's at the other end of the store. So I hoofed it because they were on their way. They'd be at my place at 6:30 or whatever because I had finite amount of time. I went and got the tomatoes. I came back, and the store manager, he's like 6'2", like a skinny, like a string bean kind of a person. I'm not going to say man because he's not. And he screamed at me. I mean, he unloaded. And my first thought was, you're completely nuts. And why are you working with the public when you obviously cannot work with the public? And my second thought was like, wow, he's under a lot of stress. And my after he screamed at me, oh, you can't. He thought I was doing, I don't know what he thought, but he just screamed at me. And then I said, quote, I looked at him and I said, do you know how much money I spend here? A lot. 400, 500, 600 a month, whatever it is, a lot, enough, right? $5,000 a year or more, easy more, probably $6,000, and that's my favorite store. It's not that it's not the nicest store in town, but I just like the ambiance of it. I know the staffers, some of them by name. I say hi. We chew the fat a little bit. I like them. I like the store, but I don't like him at all. And so I clocked him. I'm like, this thing's a malignant narcissist. He's a monster. They're out there. I've dealt with them before. That's how they try to regain control. They think they're out of control. So how do they regain control? They're so insecure. He screamed at me to try to regain control over the situation. He thought he had lost control. People who do this are sick. I'm telling you this story so you will learn that when anyone, I don't care who they are, when they scream at you, that should be like a pencil mark that you make. You just take a pencil and just put a line right through their name. And that should be the end of that person, and they're relating on any level with you. I return to that store because I get food there. Other than that, I don't have to deal with him. I see him there. I do not relate with that thing. And anyway, I won't bore you with the details, but I dealt with that my own way. I'm in that situation. I'm kind of a fight fire with fire type thing, but I won't describe it anymore. But anyway, he revealed himself to me. He showed me what he was. He's a person who was stuck in anger. Anger is a lower emotion. Lower emotions come from lower human beings. Scripture says have nothing to do with an angry man, or don't make friends with an angry man. And that's why. Someone like him, who I have just described, is a very troubled human being. Why would you go back and associate with somebody like that repeatedly? You wouldn't. You would put your hand in the fire once and say, wow, that fire is hot. I won't make that mistake again, right? So, anyway, um, the study of human nature is fascinating. If you are an armchair sociologist, uh, you will fall in love with self observation, self awareness, the study of self, self discovery, all these amazing things that that self knowledge gives you. As a reminder, self knowledge equals other knowledge. When I know self, I equally begin to know other, because I realize that you and I are the exact same thing. What I have, you have. What goes on inside me goes on inside you, to slight degrees of, slight changes between us. Other than that, for the most part, psychologically, uh, emotionally, human beings are the same. And that's why the study of human nature is so fascinating, is because it never ends. Right when you think you've got a handle on it, somebody throws you a curveball and you meet somebody else and you're like, wow. Have you ever had that when you go, especially as you get older, it hits you? I remember this started to hit me when I was like 50, and I'd be like, that man that I just met, he reminds me of my friend John from when I was in high school, and I met John, or I knew John from elementary school. I grew up with him for 20 years, and then we parted company, as people do after high school graduation. But you remind me of John. I knew you because you lived 4 blocks away from me. You were not a close friend, but you were a friend, and I'd been to your house and you'd been to mine. And here I am meeting John all over again. That's happened to me a lot. And that's because when you're a child, truth, God, reality itself is preparing you for life. And you meet, when people will say from time to time, you meet like they'll say, you meet the same people on the way up as you do on the way, or no, you meet the same people on the way down as you do on the way up, whatever. But you meet these people initially so that they can teach you and train you for the people that you are going to meet later when you're an adult. I mean, give me $1 for every time that's happened. It happens a lot. You'll see someone and you'll be like, man, you are exactly like somebody that I used to know. So we haven't really even scratched the surface on emotions. We've started. We're not really, I don't know how much. Yeah. Okay. Let me, let me say this is part one. We may have to go into 3 parts, but we're talking about you, and you are your emotional state. You and I are our emotions. Our emotions color our experience because our emotions color our perception. So it's an intro. I think we've done our intro, and we may have to come back probably once more, once for sure, and possibly even a second time. But this may be a 3-part series. For now, that's it for now.